Hi everyone, welcome to another video of the series SAT Math Explained. Today we're moving on from the algebra domain and into the advanced math domain, and the first focus skill is equivalent expressions. And so I am uploading daily, and we'll finish the series by the end of July. So just subscribe, like, and click the bell so you guys know when I upload. Okay, so what do you guys need to know to solve the equivalent expression questions? So one of the most important things, because it involves a lot of combining like terms and simplifying, you need to know basic exponent rules in relationship to variables. So what does that mean? So what happens if you add two variables with exponents? So let's say you have x squared plus x cubed. So you need to know that these, if you have different exponents, you cannot add them. So x squared plus x cubed, it's the most simplified that it can be. You can't go any further. But let's say you have x squared plus x squared. X squared plus x squared. At that point, you can make it equal to 2x squared. So if you have the same exponent, you can just add them like this. X squared plus x squared becomes 2x squared. And that is basically it for the addition subtraction. But what happens if you multiply two variables with exponents? So let's say x squared times x to the fourth. So when you multiply, you always do, so let's say x to the a times x to the b. It's always equal to the x to the power of the sum of the exponents. So a plus b here, if you want it generalized, or if you want an example, 2 plus 4, it's equal to x to the 6. But what would happen if you were to divide? So if you were to divide, so let's say x to the a divided by x to the b, this is equal to x to the a minus b, just the opposite of multiplication. And so let's say you had, this was divide, so like that. So this would be x squared divided by x to the fourth, you would get x to the negative 2, if that makes sense. So x to the negative 2. Okay, so that is it for the exponent rules. So something else that is very useful to know is factoring, which I'm going to do a very basic explanation of it. So here's just a basic example of factoring. So let's say you have 2x squared plus 4x plus 4. So how would you go about solving this? So let's say you didn't want to factor out a 2. So what would you do here? You would see what multiplies to make... This question is not possible, sorry. Okay, so what is an example? I cannot think of anything. Fine. Okay. So an example would be like 2x squared plus 9x plus 10. So what you do to factor this, because sometimes like it's going to be like this and the solution are all going to be in like, I forgot what it's called. It's like, it's going to be expanded. It's going to be two expressions multiplied. So to factor this, you would see what multiplies to make the first, the coefficient of x squared and the number. So what multiplies to make 20? Multiplied to make, you need two numbers that multiply to make 20, but then add to make the coefficient of x. So add to make 9. So you can just keep trying with Desmos, or just think in your brain. You would find that 5 and 4 are two numbers that multiply to make 20. 5 times 4 is 20, and add to make 9. 5 plus 4 is 9. So then what would you do? You would do 2x squared plus 5x plus 4x plus 10. And then you would group the first two and the last two, and then you would factor out what you can. So you just what's a common factor, the greatest common factor between these two? So right here, 2 and 5, there's no common factor, a whole number common factor. So the only thing you can take out is an x. If you take an x, you're left with 2x plus 5. And then this one has to be, after you factor out, it should be the exact same thing as the middle. So here the greatest common factor would be a 2. So this would be a 2. So plus 2 times 2x plus 5. And so if you did it right, this number and this number should be the same thing. And then the final answer would be x plus 2 and then 2x plus 5. And you're done. That's how you factor. And another form of factoring, it's technically still called factoring. Let's say you have x squared plus 2x. You just, or let's say 4x squared plus 2x. You take out 2x, you're left with, because 2x is the greatest common factor, so you just immediately take out a greatest common factor. So let's say you take out 2x, you are left with 2x plus 1. And it's important to make sure that when you like 2x divided by 2x, it doesn't become 0, it becomes 1. So that's a common mistake. Make sure to always, if you divide a number by itself, it's equal to 1 and not 0. So if it's addition, it matters a lot because there's going to be a plus 1 here that you can't remove. Yeah, so that is it for the factoring part. So So also just know how to combine like terms, similar to what I said above about know the basic exponent rules. So like if you add them, what can you add, what can't you add? If you multiply, how is it going to be? And also know to do something like FOIL, which can help in expanding. So FOIL, like let's say you have 5x and then you have x squared plus 1. You multiply this by the first one and then by the second one, and then you get 5x cubed plus 5x. Yeah. And then just know how to use Desmos. You don't need Desmos for this, but sometimes if you're just struggling to solve it, you could just plug in, if it's like two variables, so if it's x and y, some questions you can use Desmos, just plug in all the solutions, see which one is equal. And I'm going to show an example of that later on. And yeah, that is pretty much it for what you need to know. So how do you solve these? So most of these questions look exactly the same. Most of them are just going to give you an expression, and then it's going to ask you which of the following expressions is equal to it. That's why it's called equivalent expressions. So the steps to solve this are pretty straightforward. First thing, just look at the answer options. What form are the answers in? And then compare that to the expression in the question. And then you need to determine which steps you need to take to find the equal expression. So like let's say, like you have to look at the question. Let's say all the answers they factored out a certain number or something. So you should start with that. Or let's say you see that all the answers are expanded. Start with that. Or sometimes all the answers are simplified. You have to just look at what seems like it changed, and then you have to work to change the original expression to one of the answer options, and then simplify, expand as needed to using the rules to accurately arrive at the answer. And if you want, you could try using Desmos, which I'm going to show a couple questions that you can use Desmos on. And that is it for explaining the procedure. We can move on to the examples. And if you have any questions, again, just remember, just type it in the comments and I'll make sure to answer it. And again, I like to repeat this. During the examples, please try to solve it first and then watch my explanation, because you do not learn anything from watching me explain. You just get a false sense of understanding. So as usual, we do 2 easy questions, 2 medium questions, and a single hard question to wrap it up. And so let's get started. So this question tells us that, asks us which expression is equivalent to parentheses 2x squared minus 4 minus negative 3x squared plus 2x minus 7. And the minus is on all of that. So let's first, step 1, let's look at the answer options. You can see that all the answer options are all simplified. Is no all terms are combined. So we need to work on simplifying this to look like that. So how can we do that? We should start by just simplifying. So distribute everything so we can just get everything. Then it looks like we just need to combine all the like terms, and then we can arrive at an answer like that. And I think because you see that this is 2x squared, 3x squared, 2x minus 7 minus 4, you see that all the current things are already looking like this. Like there's no like x to the fourth or something. So you can assume there's no factoring or something difficult. It's just combining like terms. And there is distribution because there's a negative here that's being multiplied by all 3 of these. So using the FOIL method, I'm just going to copy it down here so we can work on it. So that's a bit big. 2x squared minus 4, then parentheses, minus negative 3x squared plus 2x minus 7. So starting here, let's just distribute the negative so that we can remove the parentheses. Because it's just addition subtraction. So after we distribute the negative, we can remove the parentheses. They're not needed anymore. So let's just multiply. So let's copy this down first. 2x squared. This is not going to change. Minus 4, and then minus negative 1 times negative 3x squared is plus 3x squared. Negative 1 times 2x, negative 2x, and negative 1 times negative 7 is plus 7. So now we have it like this, and at this point we can just combine like terms. So if you want, you could like annotate your work, just like, okay, I'm gonna highlight these ones because they go together. Remember, like we said in the what to know, because these have the same exponent, they can be combined. So 2x squared, 3x squared can be combined. Negative 4, and 7 are both just constants. Then negative 2x is just it's just alone. We can't do anything about it. So 2x squared plus 3x squared, you just add the coefficients and keep the x squared. So you get 5x squared. And then negative 2x, it just copies down. There's nothing that it combines to. And then negative 4 plus 7, just combine that. Negative 4 plus 7 is plus 3. And this looks like the form that were in the options. So let's see if any of them equal. So you got 5x squared minus 2x plus 3, which is answer option A. And so always you need to make sure that you also pay attention to negatives. That's one of the biggest mistakes that many people, including I, used to make, or still make. So if you didn't distribute the negative correctly, you could have possibly gone any of these answers. So for this one, I'm not sure exactly how, but if you didn't distribute the negative, you would most likely get one of these answers. So you get 2x squared minus 3x squared, which will give you these ones. Or maybe you forgot to put the negative on the 2x, and then you would get something like this one, and so on. Yeah, okay. Let's move on to example 2. And again, if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. So this tells us, this one's a little bit harder. It's a score band higher. It tells us, but it's still in the easy section. So the expression 2x squared plus ax is equivalent to x times 2x plus 7. So 2x squared plus ax is equivalent to x times 2x plus 7 for some constant a. What is the value of a? So for this one, we're going to try and get this one. We have to make them look similar. So we want this one, this side, to look like this side, if that makes sense. Because then we can just see. So let's just, then we can just compare them and we can find the number x. So let's just start with distributing the x because we want to try and get 2x squared so that both sides look the same thing. So this would be, this just copies down, plus ax, distribute the x. X times 2x, you have to use the FOIL method. X times 2x is 2x squared. And then x times 7 is plus 7x. So if this one is equal, you get 2x squared. 2x squared, you have that. And it's times constant times x. And here is a constant times x, and the constant is 7. And because both sides are equal, we automatically know that a is equal to 7. If that makes sense. So then the final answer would just be D, 7. So if I just wanted to point out, so if this is confusing for you guys how we just made them look equal and all that, you could also just use algebra. So I know it's an equivalent expression, but you could use algebra to solve this. So let's just assume, so 2x squared plus ax, and then after we FOILed, we got 2x squared plus 7x equals 2x squared plus 7x. So just use like basic algebra. So solve for a. So we want to first isolate a, so just minus 2x squared from both sides. Minus 2x squared. 2x squared minus 2x squared is 0. So you're left with 7x is equal to 8 to x. And you want a alone, so just divide both sides by x. You get a is equal to 7. So that is another way to solve it. And I'm not sure if you can, I'm pretty sure you can't solve this with Desmos, but those are two ways to solve it. So yeah, so now let's move on to the medium part. So this one tells us that p is equal to 3x plus 4 and v is equal to x plus 5, which of the following is equivalent to pv minus 2p plus v. So first thing, let's just plug in p and v. And if you look at the options, you can see all of them are like simplified to the max. You can't simplify these anymore. So I think it's clear that we're just gonna have to plug them in and just work to like FOIL and simplify through combining like terms and stuff like that. Let's just start by plugging everything in. So p is 3x plus 4, and it's p times v. So 3x plus 4 times x plus 5. Then we got minus 2p, so minus 2 times p is 3x plus 4, 3x plus 4. And then finally plus v, which is x plus 5, plus x plus 5. Technically, you don't need parentheses for some of these, except, like, you don't need parentheses for the last one, you need it for everything else. But for the last one, technically you don't, but I'm just going to put it to make it more clear. So if you want to simplify, we just start by, let's just distribute everything that we can. So let's start with this part. So we need to use FOIL. So we multiply this by this by both of these, and then 4 by both of these. You can do the other way around. I just do it from left to right. So 3x plus 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times 5 is 15. So plus 15. Plus 4 times x is 4x. Sorry, this is 15x. Plus 4x, and then 4 times 5 is 20. Plus 20. And then we come here, let's distribute the 2 here. So negative 2 times 3x, and negative 2 times 4. So negative 2 times 3x is minus 6x. Minus 2 times 4. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. And then we just copy this down. And we can remove the parentheses now because it's not as confusing as it was. Plus x plus 5. So now I like to just like on the SAT you're only going to have like a pencil. So you can do like different shapes. Like one of them is underlined, one of them is boxed, one of them is circled to just show the common terms. So I'm going to do like, let's say, a circle for the x squared. And there's only one of them. So just leave it like that. I said I'm going to do a circle. So circle. Then what about x to the power of 1? So we have 15x here. Let's do a cube. 15x here. We have plus 4x here. There's a minus 6x here. And then an x here. And let's do an underline for the constants. There's a 20 here, a negative 8 here, and a 5. And now, so just combine the like terms. 3x squared has nothing to combine with, so it just comes down. For the x to the power of 1, you have 15x, 4x, and negative 6x. So you could just, if you have trouble with this, you could just plug in the coefficients. So you remove the x, plug in the coefficients into Desmos. You would get 15 plus 4, 19. 19 minus 6 is 13. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So plus 13x. And then the constants, you got 20, negative 8, and 5. And if you want, you can plug this into Desmos again. You would get 17, plus 17. So this looks similar to the answer options that were there. So let's see if any one of them is 3x squared plus 13x plus 17. And it appears that we made a mistake. Oh, sorry. So I forgot this x right here. So it's actually, so it's 15 plus 4, that's 19. 19 minus 6 is 13 plus the 1. I forgot this x over here, which has a 1 coefficient. So yeah, so this would be 14. Oops. This would be 14 actually. So yeah, the answer is B. Answer option B. So, yeah, so that is where, if you guys wanted, like, if you guys wanted, like, if you didn't want to do all this work, you could have just you could do this all in Desmos, which I'm going to show you guys how to do right now. So, does it show up for you guys? Okay, yeah, that shows up good. So you can literally do P is equal to 3x plus 4, V is equal to x plus 5, then as which of the following is equal to PV minus 2P plus V. So literally just plug that in. PV minus 2P plus V. And then, Desmos understands it's going to plug these in automatically and give you this line. So I'm going to hide these so it's not confusing. So this is the line we're looking for. And then so to check our answer, we just plug, to not check our answer, to find the solution, we just plug in every single point on it. So 3x squared plus 12x plus 7. You see this one? It's not, they're not the same line, and we want equivalent, so it's not this one. And then let's say you plug in the C 19x plus 20. It's also not the same thing. It's too big, and yeah, it's too big. And then 3x plus 26x, this is going to be even bigger. 26x plus 33, that is also wrong. And then if you plug in B, the one we said was right, 14x plus 17, you see that it's the exact same line, which tells you that it's equivalent. This, like, it's based on preference. You guys can choose. You could either do this way on Desmos, or do this way on using paper and pencil. Okay, so let's move on to the second medium question. Let me just delete some of this so we have space. Okay, so this one asks us which let me make full screen. So which expression is equivalent to the expression 6 times x to the power of 8 times y squared plus 12 times x squared y squared. So if you look at here, you can see that every single question, they are factoring out something, and every single question they factored out 6x squared plus y squared. So what are we supposed to do to solve this? Let's just factor out 6x squared plus y squared and see what we get. And we should get one of these, one of the things in the parentheses after we factor it out. So if we factor out 6x squared plus 6x squared y squared times y squared. Okay. So from the first one, we take out 6. That just so this one goes away. The 6, I'm just going to copy it down actually. So 6x to the 8 y squared plus 12x squared y squared. Okay. So if we want to take out a 6x to the 8, so we want to take out 6x to the 8, if we want to take out 6x squared times y squared from the whole equation. It's factoring out is the same as dividing out and multiplying in the beginning. So how would you do this? So if we factor out 6, so we've that, let's start with the first part. So divided by 6, the 6 just goes away. So you're left with x to the 8 times y squared. You took away x squared. So like I said in the beginning, factoring out, like I just said, factoring out is the same as dividing. So x to the 8 divided by x squared, like we said, subtract the exponents. 8 minus 2, you're left with x to the 6. And then y squared divided by y squared is 2 minus 2. So y to the 0 is 1. X to the 6 times 1 is just 0. X to the 6 times 1 is x to the 6. So we're done with the first part. Let's go to the second part. You have 12 and you divide it by 6. You're left with 2. You have x squared. You divide by x squared. Like we said, 2 minus 2 is 0. So you get x to the 0, which is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Then y squared divided by y squared. Same thing as I just said. It becomes 1. So the final thing is the inner thing becomes x to the 6 plus 2. And so does any of these answers have that? The only answer that has that is this one. So C is the correct answer. And similar to the last question, you could just plug in this one into Desmos. Actually, I'm going to show it. I'm going to show that. So, okay. Yeah. So you could just plug this into Desmos. The expression is 6x to the 8. X to the 8 times y squared plus 12x squared plus y squared. What's the problem? Try adding an equal sign to turn this into an equation. Oh. So let's say that it's equal to 1. And then let's plug something else in. So 6x squared, y squared, 2x to the 6. So the reason why I told you to add equal signs is because this is not a proper function, because it's not like a linear quadratic. It's like more something that like goes around in a circle. It's similar to a circle, but not exactly that. It's like, yeah, anything you put is gonna look similar to that. So 6x squared plus y squared times 2x is the first option equals to 1. That is different. So let's try 6x squared y squared. This one says x to the 4th. X to the power 4. And let's also put equals 1. Same thing. It looks very weird. This one says x to the 6 plus 2 equals 1. Squared plus y times y squared. Okay. 0. Okay. So I'm pretty sure this question you can't solve it using Desmos because it's not a proper function because there's like it's like you can't solve for like y on this. So I think it's gonna be more of like a circle. So I'm just gonna show you guys y. Let's just see what happens. So if you put 6x to the 8 y squared plus 12x squared y squared, and you see it doesn't let you do it. It says try adding an equal sign to turn this into an equation because it's just confused. It doesn't know what's happening because this is called like an implicit. So the y is like part of it. It's not like y equals something. So that confuses it. Unlike the other question which was like it was just an x, 3x plus 4, x plus 5. This one has two variables, and that's not gonna work with as an expression in Desmos. So let's say I put like equals 5. It's still not gonna it's gonna be give me these weird functions, 12x squared plus y squared. But let's say okay. Ya Allah. Okay. So similar to the last question, this question can also be solved using Desmos, although it might be a bit more confusing. So let's say you put 6x to the 8. So just put in the initial thing, y squared times y squared plus 12x squared times y squared. So right here it's going to tell you that try adding an equal sign. Because the other question was all in terms of x. This one has an extra variable. It has y in it. So that's going to confuse Desmos. But so just put an x equal sign and just put a random number. So let's put 10 if we want. And then just make sure for every one of these you also put 10. Like you put each one of these also equals 10. So let's just start checking. So 6x squared, y squared, oops, y squared, 2x to the 6 is equal to, let's say, same thing, sorry, 10 again. You see this one is different, so that's not going to work. So let's try x to the 4th, also different. But if you put x to the 6 plus 2, which we found was the answer using the combining like terms and all that, sorry, using the factoring out. So you see right here, when you plug this in, it becomes the exact same line. So all this, it's a bit more confusing using Desmos. It is possible, like I just showed you guys. And if you put the last one, the 4th, it's going to be close, but it's not going to be right. See, it's almost close, but it's the wrong line. So that's how you solve this one with Desmos. And yeah, it's time for the hard question. Okay. So for the final hard question, it tells us that it gives us a long expression. It tells us that equations above is true for all x, where a and b are constants. What is the value of a times b? So the expression is a constant times x plus 3, all of that multiplied by 5x squared minus a constant times constant b times x plus 4, which is equal to 20x cubed minus 9x squared minus 2x plus 12. So just looking at this question, it looks like it's going to be similar to just a harder version of one of the easy questions. We manipulated it to look the same, and then we just saw which number correlated with the letters, with the constants. So for this one, for me, it looks easier to, instead of like try and factor and all that, I can just distribute this, and then that's going to give me the x cubed, and then an x squared, the x, and the constant. So let's just do that. So first thing, I'm just gonna write it all down, and let's just distribute using FOIL. Let's just distribute the a times x. So distributing this to every single number on there. Let's start with that. So ax times 5x squared is just going to be 5 will be 5a x cubed. And then ax times negative bx gives us negative ab x squared. And then ax times 4 is plus 4ax. Plus, let's multiply this. So 3 times 5x squared, 3 times negative bx, and 3 times 4. So 3 times 5x squared gives us 15x squared. So this one is supposed to be the minus does not that's a mistake. The minus does not go to the 15. The minus is only on the AB. So this should actually be a plus, and then the AB remains a minus. Because what I did, I basically kept the minus, but basically I made plus 15 minus 15, which is a mistake. So then this one would be 15 minus B. Oh, find it minus AB. So the AB is still negative. So to solve for the A, because it's alone, so that's easier to solve for it first, and then plug in to find B. So for the coefficient 5a before x cubed has to be equal to 20 because the equation tells us that the equation is true. So this side is equal to this side. So the coefficient before x cubed on that side has to be the same on that side. So we can set 5a equal to 20 because that's the coefficient before the x cubed. This came here. And this came from the other side of the equation. So then you just divide both sides by 5 and you get a equals 4. A equals 4. That is a, not a 9. A.